Imagine a world with no money at all. No coins, no notes, no bank apps, no price tags, but people are still alive. They still eat, build, travel, raise children, fight, trade. So something is moving, value is flowing, needs are being met. The question is not, how did people survive without money? The real question is, if there was no money, what held trade together? Today we're given a very comfortable story. First, there was barter. People swapped things directly. You give me your grain, I'll give you my meat. Then it got messy and inefficient. So humanity, brilliant as always, invented money. Cue progress. Cue civilization. It sounds perfect. Too perfect. Because when anthropologists actually went and studied real communities, they didn't find this so-called age of barter. They didn't find villages where everyone spent their day walking around saying, you give me this, I'll give you that. What they found instead was something much more human and much more uncomfortable for modern economics. Trade before money was not built on barter. It was built on relationships. Picture a small village. You know almost everyone there. You know who is lazy, who is generous, who gossips, who keeps their word. You know who helped you last winter. You know who disappeared when things went bad. In a world like that, trade doesn't look like a marketplace. It looks like life. One day your neighbor's harvest fails. You bring them grain from your own store. Another week, their brother catches fish and brings some to your house. Nothing is priced. No one says the word interest. No one calculates an exact exchange rate, but both of you know one thing. Between us, this will even out. That is not an equation. That is a relationship. Here, debt exists, but it's not written, numbered, and sold. It lives in memory, in habits, in reputation. Your real credit score is not a number on a screen. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. If you share, if you show up when others are in trouble, people remember. If you take and never give, people remember that too. In this world, the harshest penalty is not a fine or a fee. It's exclusion. If enough people decide, we can't trust you, you don't go to prison. You just stop getting invited. You stop getting helped. You stop being part of the flow. In a money economy, you can be hated by everyone and still eat if you can pay. In a pre-money economy, being cut off from others can literally mean hunger. That's why trade works without money, because everyone is tied into a web of mutual dependence. You can't just say, not my problem, and walk away. Today's stranger is tomorrow's only ally. So long as communities stay small, this system is incredibly resilient. You don't need a ledger on paper because the ledger is in people's heads. You don't need contracts because breaking your word is a public event. Everyone will hear about it. And there is something else. In this kind of world, generosity is not charity. It is strategy. When you help someone today, you are not only being a good person, you are investing in a future where someone will help you. The line between ethics and survival is blurry. Kindness is not a slogan on a poster. It is a very old form of insurance, but this entire structure rests on one fragile condition. People must know each other and they must keep meeting again. The moment that condition breaks, the whole system starts to shake. Imagine that village grows, new families arrive, some people leave for long journeys and come back. Food starts arriving from other valleys, other rivers, other climates. You start seeing faces you don't recognize. Now try to run the old system. Do you know who this new person is? Were they generous last year? Did they help anyone? Did they cheat someone? You don't know. You have no story for them. If they ask you for help, are you lending to a future friend or feeding a future parasite? At the same time, relationships inside the community start stretching as well. There are simply too many interactions for memory to keep up with. Who helped whom, when, and how much? At a scale of 50 people, maybe you can track it. At 500, you can't. At 5,000, it's impossible. And when memory collapses, trust collapses with it. This is the first pressure point of trade before money. Not greed, not technology, but scale. The system that worked beautifully in a tight web of relationships starts to grind when that web gets too big and too loose. So what do people do? First, they don't invent money. That comes later. The first reaction is simpler. They try to close exchanges quickly. They try to reduce long chains of, I helped you, you'll help me later, into something that can be settled on the spot. You can hear it in the logic. Give me something now, I'll give you something right now in return, and we don't owe each other anything afterward. This is the mentality that gives birth to barter as we imagine it, not as the original pure form of trade, but as an emergency mode when the old relationship-based system can't comfortably carry the load anymore. Barter often appears at the edges, between strangers, between groups with no shared history, in situations where no one expects to meet again. It shows up at frontiers, during migrations, after wars, in markets where everyone is cautious and tense. Inside your own circle, you can afford to say, "Don't worry, we'll sort it out later." Outside your circle, you can't. So before money, trade already had two very different faces. Inside, a slow, flexible web of favors, obligations, and unspoken debts. Outside, fast, sharp exchanges that try to close the deal immediately. You can imagine a trader who lives exactly in between these two worlds. But when he deals with his cousins and neighbors, he thinks in years. When he deals with travelers and foreigners, he thinks in minutes. He switches languages without noticing, from "we'll make it fair over time" to "what do you have right now?" We still live with this split today. With a friend, you might say, "I'll get this one. You grab it next time." With a stranger, you say, "Cash or card." One is relationship-based trade. The other is pre-priced, pre-measured, almost mechanical trade. The mistake in the standard story about the age of barter is that it takes this fringe behavior with strangers and pretends it was the whole economy. It wasn't. The core of pre-money trade was not haggling over objects, it was maintaining relationships over time. What you owed and what you were owed was woven into who you were. But as villages turned into towns, as local paths turned into long-distance routes, as more and more people interacted beyond their immediate circle, the pressure on this relationship-based system grew. There are only three ways to respond to that pressure. 1, you limit trade and stay small. Close the walls, keep the group tight, avoid outsiders. Some societies tried that. 2, you accept chaos. You let confusion, resentment, and accusations pile up. Eventually, violence does the accounting. Or 3, you change the way value is tracked. You stop relying only on memory and start looking for something else that can anchor obligations. You don't have money yet, but you are already searching for something that can stand in for memory when memory is no longer enough. That something might begin as a shared measure. So many sacks of grain, so much livestock, so many days of labor. At first, these are just ways of talking, rough comparisons. But once you start comparing, you will want to start recording. Once you start recording, you will want a way to make those records stable and transferable. And once that happens, you are only one step away from inventing money. That's the deeper truth about trade before money. Humanity didn't move from chaos to order because we cleverly invented coins. We moved from small, intimate, messy, but human trade to large, organized, colder trade because scale forced us to. Money is not the beginning of trade. It's a response to a trade network that had already grown beyond what memory, reputation, and personal ties could handle. If today's economy feels distant and impersonal to you, it's not because humans suddenly became colder. It's because the scale of our interactions exploded. We are still running the same basic problem. How do you trade with people you will never really know? Before money, the answer was, you mostly don't. You trade deeply with a few and very cautiously with the rest. After money, the answer became, you can trade with almost anyone as long as you accept a system that measures everything and remembers for you. To understand that system, you first have to understand what came before it. And that is the world we've just walked through. A world where trade ran on memory instead of numbers, on reputation instead of interest rates, on we'll balance this eventually instead of pay now. In the next video, we'll go one step further. We'll look at how people first tried to pin value down, how they began to measure debt, and how the first records of who owed what to whom set the stage for money to finally appear. If this gave you a different way To see trade before money, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and explore the other videos. The history of money is a mirror of humanity, and we're only just beginning to look into it.